Hello, YouTube and podcast. Welcome back to another story. Now, this first one is called I'm Not a Monster. So sit back, relax, and listen. We don't need to tell stories when there are true horror living among us. Some humans are the real, truly terrifying monsters in this god-forsaken tale we call the universe. Their methods can be widely varied, but the goal is always the same: inflict the worst possible pain on the least deserving person. Some of them prefer emotional pain, the long-term bug gnawing at your brain and spilling its poison constantly, infecting every single aspect of your existence. It grabs your soul with its spindly legs and pulls your your behavior, and your essence in every moment, refusing to let it go, be ruined and or removed. You can attack it with medications and mantras and modern methods, but like a cockroach, it survives and scampers into the corner, waiting to emerge. And then the kicker: the victims convince themselves it's their own fault, and the monsters continue to inflict suffering without facing consequences. Others are more direct and prefer the instant gratification that comes from physical pain. Their implements of choice vary as widely as the number of people they can affect. They range from the single psychopath slicing skin, tearing flesh from bone, savoring the screams and suffering of an individual, to the tenuous terrorist that tears through teeming crowds with a turret of ammo and explosives, only to look to the top of their tally, where these monsters lack the long-term impact they make up for with the sheer scale of violence and finality of their actions. There is no treating the condition called death. Anyone truly human wouldn't dream of doing any of these things. They're abhorrent. And the monsters who do, well, doesn't it benefit everyone if they're not around? Did some innocent people die in the process? Absolutely. I couldn't have predicted how many would drink the punch any more than I could predict when the next rain will come. But the harm I prevented is worth the sacrifice. How many would have suffered if it weren't for my act? How many souls were spared a lifetime of misery or short of brutality of imaginable pain followed by the end of their existence? How many monsters did I slay? For you, for him, for everyone in here. It was quick, it was painless, and it was a greater for the good. I took no pleasure in it beyond the knowledge that it was for the better. You asked for my last words. Well, they are here. I am not a monster. This next story is called My Most Unnerving Childhood Experience. It was the winter of either 1993 or 94, but I'm not entirely positive. My dad had just passed away, so it was only my mom and I living in the house together. The story is unusual for me, but still rattles me to this day, more than 25 years later. I woke up one morning in my bed to find myself chilly, covered up only by my sheets. The comforter was missing. At first perplexed, I Assumed my mom pulled it off while I was asleep and took it took it downstairs with the laundry. I got out of bed and made my way down the hall, only to find my mom standing in the entryway of the kitchen with an angry expression. "Explain why you did this," she said, pointing at the kitchen table littered with boxes of cereal, an empty gallon of milk, and a few scattered Twinkie wrappers. What? I didn't do anything. She went on to explain that the fridge was wide open when she had got out of bed. I could detect the disbelief in her eyes as I said that. That is, until I brought up my bed cover. "Your comforter is missing? Show me," she said, now with a look of anxious fear in her eyes. She hadn't touched my comforter, and I hadn't touched the food. She immediately called the police, and they searched the house, basement to attic, but no one was there. However, prior to my mentioning the covers, my mom had betrayed me for leaving the back door to the house unlocked all night. That night, someone had walked into my bedroom as I slept and pulled off my covers right off of me in my most vulnerable, intimate moments. It was winter, so it would make sense for a homeless intruder to want to take something for warmth. However, the aspect true the aspect truly disturbs me to this day. Why did he come into a child's room and take my comforter, despite us having even thicker, warmer electric blankets hanging over the couch? Whatever the reason is, I've always wondered if he had worse intentions, but changed his mind at the last second. I inevitably think of Elizabeth Smart while typing this. It has been more than 2 decades, and still, I get nervous to fall asleep even when my doors and windows are secured. This last story is called Here Comes the Accidents. I'm a security guard for a building, and little race we always have little rascals trying to break in and run around and steal anything they can get their hands on. I call these kids accidents because their parents clearly didn't mean to have them, but maybe recklessly forgot to use protection. My coworker calls these kids benefit absorbers because their parents also most likely had them for life on benefits. I was working the nights and these kids tried to get in the building and I chuckled. Here comes accidents. As the feral kids were banging on the doors, I shouted at these kids, "Hey, accidents! Mess off, alright?" And the kids stopped banging on the doors and they were just staring at me, walking towards them. I went outside to have a word with them. They started to act hard and tried to intimidate me, and I told them, "You accidents, just go somewhere else." "Why are you calling us accidents?" one kid asked me. "'Cause each of your parents definitely didn't plan to have any of you," I replied with a smirk. "You might have been accidental as well," another kid told me. "Hey, listen up. My mom and dad were definitely conscious and willing when they have decided me," I retorted. They ran off and I told this to my mom and about the accident, and then she became sad and was looking awkward. She admitted to me that I was an accident and I couldn't believe it all. It ruined my whole life and perspective, and I decided to change my style and tone of voice exactly like those kids. I started hanging around with them, breaking into buildings, stealing cars, stabbing people, and dancing on bloodied ground. I started doing this because I'm an accident and I wasn't supposed to be here. As I was rolling with this gang, they then told me that I had to murder someone to be fully part of the gang member. And I had to murder someone whose parents planned to have them. They found such a man and tied him up for me to kill. As I looked down on this crying man, a thought came to me and I turned around to my gang and I told them, "We're all accidents. The Big Bang was an accident. The formation of planets and stars was an accident. The sun being in the right distance from the Earth to cause life in billions of years of evolution for us all here to be was an accident. So in a sense, all of existence is an accident until this man who you want me to kill is also an accident." I have walked away from that gang ever since.